Hi, it's MUSOLINI, the Merchant of Success. Welcome once again. And today we are focusing on a topic, anger management 2.0. This is a very important topic because I'm yet to find someone who says that they never get angry. I'm sure they are there in this world. All I can tell you is that they are extremely few. There are very, very few people who never get angry. And so the key thing is, if it is something that happens to all of us, then it's something that we need to master. Otherwise, then anger masters us, and it's never a good place to be in. So I follow a 5-step framework when I'm teaching. That is, we look at clarity, what is it and why is it important? We look at the mindset, the mindsets required to deliver or to succeed in that particular area, the strategies required to succeed in that specific topic, the skill sets, and then of course, mastery. How do you then own this information? Let's start with the clarity about anger management. Here are some compelling statistics. More than 1 in 10 people, that is 12%, say that they have trouble controlling their own anger. And I highly suspect that for us who are attending live, there could be some of us who find trouble controlling their own anger. You don't need to raise your hand on this one or tell us, but I know that that's what it is. Because I've dealt with many people over the years, and at least I bump or get into those kinds of people who tell me that they struggle in that particular area. More than 1 in 4 people, in other words, 28%, say that they worry about how angry they sometimes feel. In other words, they can tell that they are not in a good state. They know it's not a good place to be in, and they worry about how that state of anger. So
good husband.
can really
Good husband.
or they can feel really challenged by that or in the states that they are in. Okay. Here is another statistic to bring to your attention. 1 in 5 people, which is 20%, say that they have ended a relationship or friendship with someone because of how they behaved when they were angry. Okay. So what that stat tells us is that people can acknowledge or appreciate or understand you being angry. It's just how you behave when you are angry that can either keep the relationship going or can destroy it. So how do you respond when you're angry? And well, like you can tell right there is some of us have ended those relationships, or some of us have lost the relationships based on how we were behaving amidst anger. So why is this subject important of anger management? You see, feeling angry can lead to making riskier choices. I know of a cousin who was angry at someone and it ended up pretty bad. I don't want to bother you with all the details. Just know it was rather nasty because he made a very risky choice, a dangerous choice. You see, when you're angry, it kind of shuts down the logical side of your brain. If you do not manage it well, it's like that part shuts down. When you're angry, you get into the fight or flight mode. Fight or flight meaning you either hit back or you run away. Okay, so that state is a very dangerous state if we do not manage ourselves properly. We make poor choices sometimes. Poor anger management is detrimental to relationships. I know of wonderful people who could not sustain relationships or a relationship, so to speak, because one or both of them could not manage their anger. And what is even amazing is sometimes it could be triggered by something very tiny. And that trigger usually also means that there was a lot which was building up. I call it magma. So there was a lot of magma building up, and just like a volcanic eruption, that small thing, there is magma all over the place, or lava, so to speak, for us who remember that geography of volcanic eruptions. So it is very, very costly to relationships. And when I say relationships, it could be a personal relationship, it could be a business relationship, it could be a professional relationship, meaning at the workplace. I know most of us here are professionals, and you know that there are people you cannot relate with because of how they manage their anger, or people cannot relate to you easily or comfortably because of how you respond or deal with your anger. Anger, when poorly managed, is bad for your health. What we know, according to, I believe I've hinted on this in one of the sessions, in that just remember, every thought in your brain or how you're thinking and interpreting the world triggers chemical reactions in your body. So your body is a chemical manufacturing machine. And because your body is a chemical manufacturing machine, it just gets signals from your brain, how you look at the world or how you think at the world. Therefore, how you think at the world will either send endorphins, which will feel good, or it will send dangerous chemicals that will make you feel really, really bad. That's why sometimes you may feel agitated and you're feeling rage and energy in your body. That is the fight or flight response, because sometimes you feel energetic amidst anger because the body, the brain interprets your anger as a moment to fight. Therefore, you find yourself, just it sends energy to the body, to the arms and the legs, and pumps up your oxygen in your chest. You start breathing heavy. It's time to fight or fly, meaning to run away. But then you know that after that, that's a dangerous chemical in the system. After that, your energy goes down because it's a negative chemical you've sent into your system anyway. And over time, it strains the organs. And that's why usually people who are so angry, you rarely see them looking as young as they should be, because then they really, really strain their system. And when I say strain your system, that also means when you're angry often, that means that even your immunity is lowered because of the stress. You cause stress and strain to yourself, then that lowers your immunity. Apart from wearing down the organs, it also lowers your immunity. You risk losing opportunities due to poor anger management. I'll give you an example. If you're poor at managing anger, it will be difficult for you to be promoted. Because your CEO or MD will think that, if this fellow gets angry before his teammates or her teammates, then how is that team going to perform? So you lose that opportunity. So you may be brilliant technically. And that's why usually when I'm coaching individuals on these skills that this series we've been going through, you notice over time on average 1.5 years, they get promoted. Why? Because then once you manage yourself better, then you're telling the world that now I can manage others. You see, the most challenging person to manage is you, not people out there, but you. How you manage your emotions, how you manage your thoughts, how you manage your relationships, or how you interpret the world is going to tell the world what you deserve. I mean, if the client calls you, for example, and they're disagreeing over something and then you blow up, that sale is gone. That sale is finished, or you can lose that account. All right. So now let's talk about the mindsets, the 5 key mindsets every person needs to better manage their anger. Number 1 is to remember this: people don't owe you any perfection. All right. So when you expect people to have perfection, you have to be aware, not to expect people to have perfection based on your own interpretation. They are not in your mind, and they might not be in position to satisfy your expectations fully. Because usually what makes us angry, you and I, is when you expect someone to behave in a certain way and they don't. And what I usually advise people is this. I want you to write these words down. This is something I've taught some of my private clients, and a couple of talks I've given. So I want you to write these things down. Number one, you and I would agree. Let me know if you would agree. Okay, before we talk about the agreement, I want you to write these conditions down. Background, culture, beliefs, emotional state in the moment, worldview, education, skill sets, mindset. Now, please let me know if you do acknowledge that these things that I've just mentioned, and please go ahead and type in the chat box. Do you believe that those conditions I've mentioned, they influence how people behave? Yes or no? Type the word yes or no. Those characters I've mentioned, those characteristics, those qualities, not characteristics, but conditions. Things like, if you believe that they influence how people behave, type in the chat box and let me know. Type the word yes or type the word no if you disagree. Those things I've mentioned: culture, family, beliefs, skill sets, attitudes, emotional state in that moment. All these other, attitudes, worldviews, and all that. So if you agree that they influence, type the word yes. If you don't agree, say no. I'm saying yes, 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 yes. I haven't seen any no. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If we know, now, if you get this concept, it will really liberate you. If you know that these qualities influence how we behave, how we think, and how we behave, and is it also true that that collection of beliefs and attitudes and all that, it is only you with that in this world? Yes or no? Type the word yes or no also in this time round. Meaning no one else has the exact template of beliefs, attitudes, worldview, background, emotional feeling, what you're feeling in the moment, skill sets, temperament. There are things like temperaments or personalities. So all those. Do you agree that you're the only one with that exact template? Meaning other people also are different in those aspects. Yes or no? All right. I'm saying yes, 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 yes. True, 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 true. There you go. So now, do you see how we fight a losing battle? So meaning, that, okay, at least for now, it's very clear to you that you have a unique template on these factors, and the other party, whoever you may think about in this world, has it. Even if you are born in the same family, you're still not exactly the same, because at least the temperaments will be different. I'll give you an example. I have a 7-year-old and a 3.5-year-old. Very different in terms of temperaments and how they think. Okay, so if we know that that's different, then it means that it influences their behavior. Therefore, this is the conclusion I made a couple of years ago, about 10 years ago. About 10 years ago, I came to this conclusion that people, please, you may write this on, people are always doing their very best, meaning B-E-S-T, best, B-A-S-E-D, on their attitudes, on their background, skill sets, culture, worldview, emotions, what they are feeling in the moment, especially that one, because how someone is feeling in this moment. If you're happy, you're going to behave in a different way. If you're angry, if you were abused last night, you're going to behave differently from if you were kissed. If you were slapped so early in the morning, it's going to be different from if you were hugged before leaving the home. You're going to behave differently. So people are always doing their very best based on those factors. Now, please, here is a disclaimer. That does not make it right. All we are saying is it is just so. in their worldview, in the what is going on. So I'll tell you something. I'll give you an example how this became so liberating to me. Sometimes I would be driving, and I'm sure some of us have experienced this, and then a motorcyclist or boda just crosses in front of you, you brake, and when you brake, what happens next? Instead of the fellow saying, thank you for saving my life, they are going to abuse you and say all sorts of nasty things. Look at you, bro. And I used to wonder, I used to get angry. I'm like, but this guy have just saved his life. He's the one who made a mistake. He should be grateful. Now look at him. And then when I reminded myself of this concept, then I was like, you know what? This guy is doing the best he knows how, based on his background, his skill set, his attitude, his emotional state in the moment, his skill set or his education, and all these factors. Over 60 to 70% of my stress gone. My anger gone, deflated. So that insight I've just shared with you is priceless, trust me, if you can practice that concept. Now, of course, like again I mentioned, does not make it right, just that makes you appreciate or understand where an individual is coming from, and that makes it much, much easier for you to deal with anger, with being angry towards people. So again, it reminds you, hey, they don't owe you any perfection. They are not exactly like you. So you're just basing your own interpretation, your own expectation and interpretation based on those other factors, yet their world is totally different. The other perspective or mindset, which is very helpful, is to understand that everyone has their own point of view. Therefore, if we know that, which is linked to the mindset one, is then you need to be curious, wonder why, understand why people, they act the way they do. And later in the series, I'll be talking about giving and receiving feedback for managers. And that's something we'll go a little deeper on this. But here is something that would be very useful for you. Instead, and this is something I learned several years ago when I was a training consultant with British Council in a program, Interaction Leadership Program. And on conflict, this is what, please write this one down. Don't be angry, be curious. Be curious. So instead of being angry that someone is late, you say, I wonder what could be going on in her life. I wonder how come today they have not made it on time. So do you see how just that little question, that little curiosity, all of a sudden changes your perspective? You're curious. So meaning, even the moment the person appears, rather than lashing out at them, you be curious. I noticed today you came late, which is quite unusual. What happened? You notice that level of awareness, that tone, that sense of curiosity, it automatically changes the dynamic. It's totally different from someone just jumping on, now again you're late, you don't respect me, look at you, I'm tired, go, what, bullshit, hey, my friend, you're raising your voice, you're raising your blood pressure, you're tearing down you're wearing down your organs, and that is energy not well spent. I can guarantee you that. So you'd rather be curious, ask to find out first. All right, next is this. I had hinted on it some time back. I'm hearing some, just a moment.
Sorry, Ethan, it's sorted.
Okay. So just give me. So remember this, that outbursts are more detrimental. They hurt more than build. So you need to remember that. Because ultimately, because think about it, outburst, even the word itself, you burst forth, you burst before someone else. So the key thing, part of what makes you an yesterday I was talking about being an adult. Part of being an adult is part of you managing your emotions, managing what's to come out. So that's why with computers, there is an editing tool. You notice I was editing something. And therefore, you also sometimes need to engage the editing tool. And having said that, not always though, not always though. There are also certain circumstances where you need to raise your voice, no doubt about that. What I'm saying is you can also raise your voice without sounding crazy. The other mindset, which is very important for you to remember, is a forgiving mindset. This is extremely crucial. That forgiving is a favor done to yourself and by yourself. Forgive yourself, forgive others. What do I mean? Some of us are angry at ourselves. How do I know? I have been several times. And the older I get, the more I get to forgive myself. You see, when we talk about anger, it's not just anger directed at people, it's also anger directed at ourselves that is actually even more detrimental. You see, here is the thing. When you see people angry, oftentimes, it's not because they are angry at you, they are angry with themselves. Many years ago, I was attending a session live by Wayne Dyer. Yeah, that was like 2002. Yes, 2002. I was doing an internship in New York, and he also told us that he had learned it from someone. He said, look, if I held an orange and squeezed it, what would come out? Everyone said orange. Said, okay, great. So does it matter if you're short or tall? No, still orange juice is what will come out. Does it matter whether you're white or black? No, still orange juice is what will come out. Does it matter whether you're small or big? No, still orange juice will come out. So what determines the output from this thing that you're squeezing is what's already inside it, not the external force. Please mark that. It's not the external force and conditions, it's what is already inside. That's a powerful mindset for you to remind yourself of. So when you hear people say, oh, he made me angry, the more accurate conclusion should be, he triggered the anger that was already in me and it burst forth. Because I'll tell you something, someone will say exactly the same thing to another person and they won't be angry, they might smile, they might even laugh. So one of the best ways to manage your anger is to work on yourself, to forgive yourself, to be at peace with yourself. Am I there yet 100%? No. It's just that every month I'm getting better and better and better. And that mindset is powerful. And one of the quickest and fastest ways, or most efficient and effective ways, is learn to forgive yourself, not to overjudge yourself. Because when people don't forgive us or when they overjudge us, we feel bad. And yet we do the same thing to ourselves. And guess what? That energy of you hating something that you did to yourself and all that, then that anger is what will burst forth. So by the time someone says something, he or she finds you unstable emotionally, he or she finds you unstable mentally, then you cannot respond properly. Why? You did not manage your stuff. And I'm here to propose to you that moving forward, forgive yourself. To look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, you know what, I forgive you. You know what, I love you. You know what, regardless, at least you're learning something, you'll move forward. You know what, I choose to regard, even though you're this, even though you've done this, I still love you and appreciate you and I forgive you, okay? And in the same way is please learn to forgive others. That one teacher put it this way, that you refusing to forgive others just so they might feel the hate and the hurt is like drinking poison, thinking that the other person is the one who will die. No, wrong mentality. When you forgive, it is you are giving. You are forgiving. You're forgiving. You're giving to yourself that sense of peace. You're choosing to say, no one. You see, here's the dynamic. And once you get to this concept, it will really liberate you And it's truly priceless from my own view, from my own perspective. You see, if you are so angry at a person and you refuse to forgive them, then they are controlling you. They have the buttons. They have the buttons. That's why some people, once they know what triggers you off and they want to annoy you, they will say certain words. They will do certain things because they know it will throw you into a tantrum. And now they are in control. They are controlling you. It's like a PlayStation. Even though I don't play again, they are controlling you. So here is the scenario. If you're angry at someone and something happened and they are far away, so when you're alone, you're thinking, how this bitch, this guy, this son of a whatever, this daughter of a whatever, now you're gnashing your teeth. You've lost a full hour of your happiness and the guy or the lady is there having fun, a blast of their life. So who is fooling who here? Who is hurting you? I'm here to propose to you that you are hurting yourself. You are fooling yourself. And the other person is feeling good about it. Whether they know that you're good, you're hurting or not. Of course, they may not be feeling good about it. They may not even know. So the point I'm saying is forgive yourself, forgive the other party. When you forgive them, you release that energy. Now, of course, some of us have had that before. Now, I'll give you a tip that I've been sharing with the Succeeding Daily Mastermind people, a closed group, but I'll share it with you here because I know it's priceless. And wow, here's the deal. So what you do, I learned something called a forgiveness letter. So what you do is you get a piece of paper, you write a letter to this person. Dear so-and-so, you made me angry at this and this, I'm tired of this, and you can abuse them, you can swear, you can write all sorts of things that you want, that you may think about. And then you power everything on paper. Then at the end you say, and I choose to let this injury be over for me now. I choose to release you. I choose to love you unconditionally. And this injury is forever released out of my life. I love you. Full stop. You sign, put date and time, whatever it is, then fold that letter and send it to the other person. No, just kidding. You don't send that letter. What you do is ideally you burn it. Now, when you burn it, it's a psychological and energetic way of letting that energy off your shoulders. Whoever my private clients I've shared that with, they always tell me they feel like your weight is off their shoulders. Now, some of us have many people to forgive. And guess what? You may also need to forgive yourself. There are certain things you need to forgive yourself about. So if you use the forgiveness letter, that will work like magic. It worked for me because there are some people that really hurt me and I never knew that this would work out. That's a story for another day. Because of time, I won't go into detail, but this was a family member who even said, if I had a gun, I would kill you. That was an uncle of mine. And that was way back in 1999. I was just finishing the university. And I will tell you, by doing what I'm sharing with you right now, right here, right now, and doing the forgiveness letter, that weight went off me and we are now in talking terms, and I've supported my cousins and we have a wonderful relationship. From someone who said, if I had a gun, I would kill you, to having a very healthy relationship now. So, and that doesn't take away what happened then. It's just that it was me to change my mindset to know that it's me. And he doesn't even know that I wrote that letter and all that. I've never told him that I forgave him. By the way, it doesn't matter. I was doing it for me, all right? Next is a solution-focused mindset. Something has gone wrong, remember. Mistakes have been made. What is the way forward? How do we fix this? This is my default mode. You see, there are people who want to get stuck in the pain, in the suffering. See, someone said that you may not avoid the pain, but you can avoid the suffering. And what he meant by the suffering is you, focusing on all the bad things, on all the hate and all the challenges, and dwelling on them and thinking about them and reflecting on them and analyzing them, my friend. That can be very, very costly. Instead, you switch your mind. Okay, this has happened. What do I do now? Okay, what can we do? Do we need to meet? Do we need to give ourselves space? Do we need a mediator? Do we need, so you're thinking best, and again, you think based on what is going on in the moment. You use your wisdom, you use emotional intelligence to think, okay, what would be the easiest way? And one of my favorite authors is called Tim Ferriss, and he learned a question he picked from one of his mentors. And the question is, how could this be easy? How could I make this easy? So that's another way. So how could you make it easy to move out of that angry mode? How could you make it easy? It might mean laughing about it. It might mean laughing about it, all right? So how can you make it easy to get out of that angry mode, all right? So there was a question around outbursts, that outbursts are more detrimental, they hurt more than build. So here is why they are more detrimental. Number one, they are detrimental to you. Because if you're there shouting, number one, you're going to regret about that. Most likely, at least over 99% of the time, people, upon deeper reflection, I've never found a person who says, you know what, me, I love my life. I'm always having outbursts and shouting at people and angry at people. Well, they might say it in the moment, but they know deep is most times, at least 19, that's why I'm not saying 100%, there could be those people. That's why I'm leaving the 1%. At least I've never met someone who says, oh yeah, me, I love my life. I'm excited, I'm healthy, I'm all excited and have wonderful relationships. I am happy, I have wonderful relationships, I'm successful because of my outbursts. No, I've never met such a person. So they are detrimental, that's what I mean. They hurt more than build. What I mean by that, also, in terms of relationships, I'll tell you, there are certain companies I know that have lost high quality staff because their managers could not talk to them normally. They were just being shouted at. So in the end, so the company has lost, and trust me, even that manager is not happy about that outcome. So in essence, it's truly, truly costly, okay? So when I said that it hurts more than builds, that's what I mean. You'll not see teams being built by outbursts. You'll not see performance being raised by outbursts. If that happens, it will be just out of fear, and it's not sustainable. Someone might choose to raise their game because of the outbursts from the manager, but I will tell you it's not sustainable. Sooner rather than later, that person will also break down, all right? So, and then now let's talk about the strategies. 6 key strategies for anger management. Strategy number 1, response, journaling, and management. How do you respond when you are angry? You see, everyone gets angry, or at least most people, at least over 99% of the people I know. Everyone gets angry, but the difference is how we respond. Actually, I've never met someone who doesn't get angry. Journal your responses to different situations. Craft a solution for any undesirable response regarding anger. So what you do is, this is like a reflection strategy. So you could call it an emotional intelligence journal, okay? That's an even better word. Please do not have something called anger management journal. If you declare something like anger management journal, it's like you're telling the world, hey, I'm just full of anger. No, you can just call it emotional intelligence journal, okay? In that, how are you managing your emotions? So you're taking note. At the end of the day, you reflect, what did I do well when this challenging experience happened, and how am I going to do it now? So you engage those gears, okay? And then you can then start to even visualize a different, let's just assume that you got annoyed and there was an outburst. So you acknowledge that, okay, I could have done it differently. So in the future, if someone shouts at me, what am I going to do? Okay. And then of course, I'll be giving you the tips. Okay, next time, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take some deep breath in or walk away. So you're rehearsing your success ahead of time. You're rehearsing success-related solutions ahead of time. Okay, next is the channel flipping strategy. Okay, let me see if you're able to see it when I frame it like that. All right, so when we talk about channel flipping strategy, you see in your life, think about it as you can tune into different stations. So when you're angry, you're tuning into anger, okay? So when you're happy, it means you're tuning into happiness station. So now what you need to do is you need to flip the channel, work on your mind, change the focus, get lost into other activities. What do I mean? Let's just suppose you're angry about a certain situation. You can choose to dwell on it and think about it and feel it and process it and all that. That's, you're still tuned into the channel. Or you can say, you know what, let me go out for a run. So like for me, exercise is excellent. Well, now once you go out for a run, you've switched the channel from anger to a health activity, to a health inducing activity. So you flipped. Now, once you flip, that does not mean hiding away. You can later come and analyze that situation, but when you're in a better mental state, okay? Please note that flipping does not mean ignoring or forgetting. It means you need to be in a healthier state to address that situation or what is going on. So in the moment, you need to say, okay, which channel do I choose to focus on? So you know what, let me go watch a movie. You know what, let me listen to a good song that is uplifting. Let me listen to this song, to this wonderful music. Like one of my favorite songs these days is Count Your Blessings. So you say, you know what, let me count my blessings, okay? This guy, my husband has really annoyed me today. Now you can focus on all the nasty things he's done. You're like, you know what, let me count on the blessings my husband has given me. Well, on Christmas, you got for me this, you bought for me a dress. The other time, yeah, he really gave me a wonderful hug. And I really loved that. Okay, now, all of a sudden the channel has changed. You've reduced the amount of toxicity you're powering in your system. Now, that doesn't mean that you cannot talk about this issue in the next 1 hour or in the next day or in the next week. No, it's just that by then you're in a much better state, okay? Next, let me just pull it up here so that you can see. It's the fairness and justice strategy, okay? So you need to remind yourself that indeed sometimes people may not give you the justice that you deserve. That happens. So when that happens, here is a quick strategy. It is to remind yourself and say, you know what? This is unfair. This is unjust. But let me reflect. Where have I still been rewarded somehow, regardless of what happened? Meaning this thing happened, this XYZ thing happened. I felt it was very unfair. It was very bad. And yet out of the blue, this is the blessing that came out of it. I'll give you an example. As we speak right now, there's someone that knows someone that I know in the family. And this person felt that they deserved the job. In fact, they passed the interview. It was an internal opportunity to upgrade to another level. And they didn't, so they passed the interviews according to insider information. But yet somehow, due to some politicking or whatever word you want to use, this other person who shouldn't have gotten into that position ended up having that position. And this person was regretting and in pain over that situation. It was unfair. It was unjust. That's what that person felt in that moment. That was a couple of months ago. As we speak, that person in the same organization got a better opportunity. A better opportunity. What do I mean? So all I'm saying is there are those moments where you feel the world has turned against you, where you feel things unfair, where you think there is injustice. And yet, in the bigger scheme of things, the way God works is somehow fairness comes back to life. God is fair. God is fair. When I was a teenager, I was attending a soccer match, I believe there is something that happened, and then, like, something unjust happened, and then some justice was repaid. And then I overheard someone say these words. I was a teenager. Up to now, I've never forgotten. This guy said that Katonda talya mandazi, Mkatonda talya nguzi, meaning God does not take bribes. God does not believe in injustice or unfairness. Somehow, somewhere, there will be a divine equalizer. A divine equalizer. God will come to your rescue. God will step in ways that you've not known. I'm sure if I was to ask each one of us now, whether you're attending live or watching the recording, there was something that happened and you are cursing, you are gnashing your teeth, you were angry, you were feisty, and later down the road, months or years down the road, you're like, thank you, God, that that thing happened. Thank you, God, that I lost that job. Thank you, God, that I lost that opportunity. Thank you, God, that I was fired. Thank you, God, that I lost that relationship. Thank you, God, that that fellow abused me. Thank you, God, that guy shouted at me. Thank you, God, that that fellow sent this nasty email. Thank you. Because of that, see who I have become, or see what I have now. Once you think in terms of fairness and justice, you say, you know what? God is always fair and just to me. You remind yourself of that. Then somehow, somewhere, sometime, one day, fairness and justice shall reign in your house, in your life, in your career, in your affairs, in your business. Because you and I have had those moments. If I was to ask each one of you, you could share with me a story, a moment, whether as a child or a teenager or an adult, you have. So this is a priceless strategy to hold into your arsenal. Next is trigger identification. You need to increase awareness of your anger cycle. Start to reflect on your recent history of anger outbursts. Who usually triggers you the wrong way? Where does it usually happen? When does it usually happen? What triggers you? How does it happen? So you might discover, for example, that when you're tipsy or when you're drunk, then you easily get angry. Therefore, now you know, like, this alcohol thing does not help me. So I need to move away. Or you're thinking to yourself, you know what? I've had stories. I am an Arsenal fan. And I've had stories of where guys, when their soccer team loses, they become angry, they bang tables and all that. And I'm thinking, man, get away. It's not worth it. Why break the table? You spent money watching the game, or you pay for DSTV, then you bang the table, you're angry at your wife or whatever it is, then it's not worth it. Then you may have to step away and say, you know what, guys, just give me reports, okay? So luckily for me now, I know how to handle those losses, okay? So I can watch comfortably. So you need to figure out your triggers, and then you rehearse ahead of time. How are you going to manage those triggers? Can you stay away? Can you minimize them? Or how can you better respond when such situations happen? So this becomes your trigger identification modality to enable you, to push you towards managing your anger better the following next time. This other one is the deferred response strategy. Walk away, sleep over it, hold off that email, hold off the feedback situation, wait for the emotions to calm down. This is something I use, this is almost my default mode, always. So something happens, I recall there's something that happened at home, and I was not happy with my wife about something. And I slept over it. And I kept looking for the right moment, and she was also very busy going through work stuff and all that. So, and it wasn't the right time. So later, after a couple of days, I sat down and shared with her what I felt and, explored what happened, or how can we make things better. She said, like, so you mean all this time you were feeling this way? I said, yeah, but I had not found the perfect moment. Okay. So for me, I do not believe in you totally ignoring something. I believe in talking about issues. And I also believe in talking about issues in the right mental, emotional, and spiritual state. Because I know if my wife does something that annoys me or that makes me angry, if I unleash that anger with her, you know, she might give me her back, you know, I may not get some for the whole month. All right, not that it has ever happened, but I'm just imagining. So I'm saying that we need to defer our responses sometimes, because there are those moments whereby, you know, if you respond in this moment, you're going to cause more harm than good. And remember, some of you might say, hey, but she also annoyed me. Yes, but that doesn't mean that because she's annoyed you, you also annoy her. That is double trouble. Why have double trouble? At least one trouble is easier to handle. Two troubles, ask any married couple, they will tell you it is fire. That fire becomes an inferno, which might be hard to. So one of you needs to cool down and respond in calmness. Okay. How do I know this? Because I know that when I was still young and spirited and, you know, would go into feisty arguments, and then, you know, all of us end up regretting about it. The other strategy is the third party strategy. Talk to someone. Okay. Now, my preferred mode is that as much as possible that you handle things your way, in your own world, in your own style, because usually third party sometimes may cause more harm than good. I've had those moments myself. So I would say that should be the last strategy. If you use all these and they don't work, that's the last strategy. Now, I have, so meaning you get, again, that third party, you use your wisdom. It might mean a senior person, could mean a spiritual leader, it could mean a mentor, it could mean an elder. But like I've said, that should be the last strategy, okay? I'm not a big fan of it. It should be only when you don't have a way out. The seventh strategy, which I had not thought about, which is very, very crucial, is the spiritual strategy. The late Wayne Dyer wrote a book. I read it when I was in my early 20s. I need to get it again and read it. He said that there is a spiritual solution to every problem. There is a spiritual solution to every problem. I read it when I was in my early 20s. I need to read it again now that I'm in my early 40s, 20 years later. So I really believe that God, our creator, wants us to be at peace, to find solutions. So I believe that we can turn over these issues to God and say, God, help me to go through this. God, help us to heal this relationship. God, help me to be at peace in this situation. God, help me with this. Help me resolve this, right? So now let's go to the skill set. I like this skill set, the ABC model for anger management. And the source is Healthy Psyche 2021. The A stands for activating event. This refers to the initial situation or trigger to your anger. So this refers again to the strategy we talked about of that awareness. So you need to know what triggers that anger. Again, notice I'm calling it a trigger, not a cause. No one causes you to be angry. They just trigger the anger inside you. The anger is already there, pew, then it just comes out. They don't cause the anger, they trigger the anger that was already inside you. Now, once you understand that, it makes a big difference. So you need to act to know the initial trigger. Then secondly, and for me, this is the most crucial then, is you analyzing your belief system. You see, your belief system refers to how you interpret the activating event. What do you tell yourself about what happened? What are your beliefs and expectations of how others should behave? This is huge because it's not the event, it's your belief, it's the story you tell yourself about the event that triggers the anger. So meaning you can choose to smile about something or be annoyed about something. So there's this old story of a very wise Indian, an elderly wise man, and he was known to be a master. So this young man he has so many stories about this old guy, how he's always peaceful and smiling. He's like, you know what, I really am going to piss off this guy. I'm going to make him annoyed. So he came, abused him and said all sorts of nasty things. And the guy just stayed calm, smiling. So the guy was frustrated. He said, but you, man, I've abused you, I've said all nasty things, and you're still smiling. I've abused you, I've said all nasty things. So then this old man pauses and asks this gentleman, this young man, says, so young man, if someone brings a gift to offer to you and you refuse that gift, to whom does the gift belong to? I hope you get the insight here. And of course, the young man was very clear that the gift belongs to the person who brought it. He said, okay, so now if you bring me all the anger or the hate, if I refuse to take it, to whom does it belong to, right? So you see, that was the belief system of this happy master, in that someone can bring stuff to you, it's up to you to accept it or let it go back. If someone says something and you take it in, and it goes in your system and churns you and triggers that anger, you chose to accept it. I'll tell you, I've had moments where someone says, oh, you're this, and they say nasty things and say, oh, thanks for the compliment. And some of them just say it just to trigger me or something, and they say, thanks for the compliment. I laugh about it, they laugh about it, pew, gone. Belief system. It's a compliment that I refuse to accept. Then besides the belief system, so meaning, okay, so let me give you now how can you use this mindset? So the way you use this mindset, what I coach my private clients is this, in that you can then choose to interpret something in a way that serves you. So let's just suppose someone shouts at you. You can choose to say, you know what, that person is going through some troubles, so most likely they need me to pray for them. Someone shouts at you, you can think, you know what, this is an opportunity for me to work on my stuff. If I get angry, it means I have anger inside me. So what am I angry about myself that I need to work on? So once you start asking yourself these intelligent questions, or you create wonderful conclusions, then it deflates that anger. The other one, then the C stands for consequences. This is how you feel and what you do in response to your belief system. In other words, the emotional and behavioral consequences that result from A plus B, from the event and the belief system. So meaning you think, okay, what are the consequences? What usually happens? How do you respond? Do you get annoyed? Do you withdraw? Do you shout back? So you're analyzing again. So here you are analyzing your anger space or your anger responses. And then the last one is the dispute. This refers to a very important step in the anger management process. You need to examine your beliefs and expectations. Are they unrealistic or irrational? If so, what may be an alternative and calmer way to relate to the situation? So this is related to what I had mentioned a little earlier about belief system. So if you feel that your responses are unrealistic, and usually they are, if you get angry, most likely they are, because then you will discover that, I'll give you an example. I'll give you an extreme example. Many years ago, I was listening to a story of this young man who went and shot, went on a rampage and killed some kids in the US. It was a very painful story. At least most people were, and so I was. And then later, this guy also killed himself and left a note and said, you know what? The note said was along the lines of, no one loves me, no one cares for me, and this life is not worth living. So those who followed his story, they realized that this was someone who never had attention in his life, he had no care, and that's how he was responding. That's how he responded, I beg your pardon. So the point I'm saying here is, once you look at people and you start imagining and presupposing that there must be a cause that you may not know, then that is a very, very healthy way to deal. That may not take away again the pain, like I said. Like we cannot take away the pain of what that young man did, and yet we can minimize the suffering. When I say minimize the suffering, it's us being very judgmental, analyzing, creating stories, how could and again, we are human. What I'm saying is once we know that people do not do things from nowhere, there's always a story behind their behavior, then I would like to submit that it is a much, much healthier way to look at the world, okay? Now, in terms of mastery, this is what I would like you to do. If you're to master this, you need to identify a real life situation and then think, how can you apply the ABCD model of anger management? And then in every moment, you think about this segment, this situation. How can I manage, or how can I use the ABC moment? So remember, the first 3 is analyzing, and then the D is the responding, okay? But notice that most people first respond, and then they start analyzing. And I'm here to propose to you that you analyze, then you respond. So in that, every time you're angry, pause, breathe in and out, and analyze. Okay, what's this event? What are my beliefs around this that is causing this? Okay, what are the consequences when I behave this way? And then, okay, next time, what's the best way to respond? What's the most calm way? Or the other trick is to say, okay, what would so and so do? You must be knowing someone who is always calm under tense situations, or you say, okay, how would so and so respond? Or how would Jesus respond? Or how would God respond to this? Okay, what would Jesus do? What would God do? Then that is also a very, very powerful strategy that I've just dropped right there. All right, cool. So I know, please type in the chat box. So if you're watching the recording, please pause this recording and discuss these questions. What did you find most useful in this presentation? And how are you going to implement the lessons moving forward in your life and career stroke business? So this is what you're going to discuss inside your breakout rooms for the next 6 minutes or so. So just get in, have that conversation. Please, this is a very useful part of owning the content. So I would encourage you to go forth and engage, so to speak. So let's rock and roll. Have that conversation for the next 6 minutes. And the links, Nathan should be posting the links there. So the question was, for introverts, phlegmatic and melancholic, like bottling stuff up, how do you deal with someone who doesn't want to talk about stuff? That was a question from Emily. Emily, that's a fantastic question. I've dealt with those characters before, and I'll tell you it's not as easy as it may sound. And at the same time, it's not impossible, okay? So what does it mean? It means for such characters, you need to take your time. That's 1. 2, you need to make sure that the timing is perfect. When I say timing, you need to find them when they're in a much better mood. Because they like bottling stuff up. Again, and I also don't like generalizing. I'm saying there are those characters, even extroverts, there are extroverts who bottle stuff up. And though you're asking me about the introverts. So for such characters, I find it, number 1, you need to take your time, okay? Number 2, you need to make sure that the timing is perfect. And that also means ideally one-on-one in a private space. And that also means you need to study the mood to make sure that they are relaxed about the situation, or they're in a relaxed mood. Then they speak best when they're in a relaxed and private mood. So, by the way, I noticed this happened. I'm curious what made you say that, or what made you think that way? And they might brush you off and the like. That doesn't mean that you give up. You can gently bring it another time, And also you just need to pay attention and also discover, for example, when they are engaging you or when they're asking you questions, that's also a perfect time for you to remind them about something. Say, by the now that I've answered this, I'm curious, I noticed this other event you did, what was influencing you to think that way? So because now they're already engaged in a conversation with you, you've given them some information or you responded to something, now you can also raise something in that moment. That is even better, typically. Okay. Please let me know if I've answered your question. And Godfrey asks, Ethan, is it possible for someone to be angry to someone for a lifetime? For example, teenagers raped in their youthful age, having hate for all men. Is this still anger and can it be managed or is it something else? Godfrey, that's an extremely heavy question. And my heart goes out to people who have been abused. And I know this is a very rampant situation. And sometimes it's even children. So for me, that's not anger. That's huge. That's beyond anger, Godfrey. So anger is just one of the pieces, but it's much more than that. So how can this be handled? Number one, through psychotherapy. Number two, just so you know, for the rest of us, that I am certified in a technology that we call peace processing. And it's not the typical counseling, whatever it is. I help you if it's anger or an emotional experience, I can help you reduce it from whatever the level is to zero. That's my guarantee. If it is emotional, you're just feeling things and you're feeling very bad about something, I can help you do peace processing about that. So Godfrey, I would say, number one, it is you can talk about things at a logical level, explain some of these things, some of the techniques I've been talking about. And number two is, if you know of such a character, of course, like I've told you, I have some tools and techniques on how to help such situations. You could talk to a counselor or psychologist and all that to help them reduce the pain. And the good news is that there are tools where you can, so what that person needs are healing tools to heal through that process. That's what I can say for now. And I may have to do a session specifically on healing heavy stuff, if that's of interest to you guys. But yeah, that's what I can say for now. It's beyond anger. So anger is one of the components of that. And there are many underlying issues, okay? I mean, that person could be traumatized as an example. So there's a lot. Someone else asked a question. This is the last one. Does cutting off someone who is angered a solution, or you need to make amends before cutting them off? Well, I'm not understanding your question. Does cutting off someone who angered you, I believe, a solution, or you need to make amends before cutting them off? So Emmanuel, I wouldn't judge because I really don't know the dynamic. Sometimes cutting off is a way to go and sometimes it's not the way to go. I would say as much as possible, work on yourself, work on that anger. I do peace processing, by the way. I'm certified in that. It's called the instant miracle technique. I can help you. If you're really angry at someone and it's been bothering you, just know I have the technology and the guarantee that I can help you. If your anger is, if it's at a level 10, I can help you reduce it to 0. That's my guarantee. If it's just anger, I can sort it out. I can help you out, just so you know. So I would say the solution ultimately is, whether you cut them off or not, ultimately you need to work on yourself and get healing, heal yourself in that particular aspect. So that's Nathan's contacts, and you can check them out. In the Nathan, you can also type my phone numbers. Let me also type my phone number. Some of us may need help in the aspects I've told you about. It could be, let me pause this because now this is just private.